instead of being there. It's such a joy to be able to read in this program, Literary Witness program, which I've admired for years, so thank you. I also want to thank my publisher, Martin Stillman and Roden Press, for this really beautiful book. It's a thrill. I was going to start with the poem that you quoted from. Time. No, actually, I'm glad because you've sounded the note that time is the dominant theme that is woven throughout this book. Time, the way we experience it in different seasons throughout our lives, and how the layering of time builds memories, the memories that are important to us. I plan to read 16 or 17 poems, and then we'll have time to have conversation or questions. So, and if you can't hear me, although the space is so great, probably you can, raise your hand and let me know. I don't have to read that first poem, but I will just read the very last bit of it. I reach out in the immaculate now that is mine, that is all I ever had, but that has meant everything. And I think for most of us, there is a feeling that we're hurrying through time, that there is never enough of it. And so the idea to be awake, to cherish the moments, is something that's awfully important to me. I was going to see whether I had enough time to read a poem that maybe I wasn't going to read. But since I don't want to read that first poem, I'm going to read a poem that I would never dare to read if it were the usual kind of February. The poem is called Minnesota Wind Chill, -50. Since it's nice out there, I can do this. And it's a poem that's called Theme and Variations in 7 parts. 1. Mississippi freezes, first of many surrenders. Tonight, something falters, not the wind, the black stone fired at my chest, the stinging nettles in my eyes. Tonight, something else dies with the machinery, the unguarded flesh. Pity is frozen in my fingertips. Oh, river, stop in your tracks. What can you expect from us? Life holds on tonight, waiting for further instruction. 2. Tonight, a hot bath and many lights for reassurance. Tonight, the furnace guzzles fossil fuels, sucked from the last black puddles. After this dinner, there is no dessert. Tonight, the wand on the roof taps the sky for an alternate source of energy. Canned laughter, a torrent of light and noise to drown out fear and tedium. This illusion of warmth is tended into the small hours of the night. 3. Unexplained, those sounds out there, a thud, giant fists boom against the roof. Amplified, echoing in the stone cathedral of cold. The house suspects the worst. Brittle Rice Krispies box settles its cardboard back to the wind. Frost sprawls an ugly fur along the window ledge, sealing us in, sealing us off. Lazarus himself was not secured more carefully the second time. The wind hisses a curse down the flue. 4. Watch it burn, the seasoned wood, stacked in the garage last June by Roy, the woodman. "This is Roy," says he in May. "I got your oak and birch. It's good and dry. No slugs. Stock up while you can hit it." 5. We stretch out to the music to be warmed. A voice pleads, distilling pain in purest plumped Italian. Each phrase an exquisite death. Thank God we don't understand the words. A cello sobs, lamenting nature's fall from grace into this age of lead. Our Arctic hearts dissolve. The wind sneers. The fire shows its orange teeth. 6. When the light quits, cold bullies the dogs. They lift their paws and howl to come inside. Rabbits are slowly freezing. Pheasants are slowly freezing in their burrows and snow caves, without Puccini to console them. They do not suffer the future. Minute by minute, the present devours them. They cannot burn less than themselves. 7. Tonight, nothing is warm enough. Brandy in the gullet won't do, or the down quilt, or a brisk quarrel. Tonight, you are the live fire on the grate. You are the tale told to shivering children at winter bedtime. You are the shield against the black wind roaring out of the devil's jaw. Tonight, nothing else is warm enough. So I can only read that on the last day. and now, a very different kind of poem that talks about the joy of childhood and summer. The endless summer of childhood, which you think is going to last forever, and unfortunately doesn't. When I was growing up, I was a city kid, and our pursuits for boys were stickball in the street, and for girls, stoop ball, handball, and for real thrills, roller skating. So this poem. Flying the hill. I wanted them more than anything. Ball-bearing roller skates. Did anyone ever have them? Okay. Ball-bearing roller skates. Skates that growled. The summer I turned 10, my mother traded for a pair. And like the other girls, I wore my skate key on a cord around my neck. We fastened our skates on someone's red brick stoop, tightening the clamps with our keys until we couldn't feel our toes. We rolled onto the pavement, ball bearings rumbling. The boys in the street playing stickball ignored us, or pretended to. When I hit the sidewalk, a thrum started in the soles of my feet, vibrating every cell as we clattered to the big hill. When I stepped down to the blacktop of the street, there was silk beneath my skates, a river made of speed. My skates purred as I cruised, praying no car would turn the corner of 44th when I flew past, eyes half shut, arms hugging my knees, myself a wind, thinking only faster. Climbing to the top for the gift of free fall, we surrendered again and again to a pleasure we controlled, until our bodies jittered, our thighs burned, legs wobbled, gave out. Spent but high as the hill, we sat in a row on the curb, swapping candy and gum, setting a time to fly again before we rolled home. Thank you. a very different kind of poem about music. As children, I think we grope for an understanding of what life means for our parents, trying to feel what they feel. That's what this poem is about. My mother's music. In the evenings of my childhood, when I went to bed, music washed into the cove of my room. My door opened to a slice of light. I felt a melancholy I couldn't have named, a longing for what I couldn't yet have said or understood, but still knew was longing, knew was sadness, untouched by time. Sometimes the music was a rippling stream of clear water rushing over a bed of river stones caught in sunlight. And many nights I crept from bed to watch her, swaying where she sat, overtaken by the tide, her arms rowing the music out of the piano. And for those of us who become parents, there's a hope that we can give our children what they need to see them safely through time. This poem is called Yes. These questions you ask me with your eyes, I would answer yes to you always. Yes, yes, yes. I would sugar your strawberries with my yes. I would pack yes into your lunches with the cookies, crack and peel the hardest days, and wrap them in the foil of my shielding yes. At night, I imagine feeling my way to your stabled bodies and finding that you have moved out of the house, out of the yard, into spaces I can't share. I promise you a waking passport out of the country of casual knives that slash because you are too small, too tall, too blue, too red. I promise you something better than a promise. You will grow out of clothes too tight for you, the garments of smaller persuasions. You will grow to imagine yourselves. You will grow up out of the leaf, out of the shadow of my yes. The next two poems are about the power of language. You're here, I think, because you're readers, and maybe readers of poetry, which is terrific. The reader is about the importance of your presence as a participant. The reader. The poet floats a haiku out of her sleeve. The reader smiles. The poet sets off a fountain of fireworks. The reader's sky erupts in blue and gold. The poet suffocates a poem, line by line. The reader turns the page. In full view of the reader, the poet saws a poem in half. The reader closes the book, decides on a long walk. I think we've all felt it. I've had dreams so vivid, I was glad to wake up and escape them. And some poems have that power, induce that same dread to shake us up. This poem is called Hex. Reject this poem. It will pursue you, slipping in silent slow motion through the deep snow of your sleep. Faster and faster you run, leaping from one flow to another and another. The poem with steel claws not far behind. Reject this poem, this keyhole into the locked tower at the top of the labyrinth of twisting stairs, in the house that watched you when you never stepped on cracks, where the crow flies from the window, shrieking in a language you didn't know you understood. There, take that one. Reject this poem, lying at your sandy feet, flopping and gasping on the shore of a cold sea, your tears befoul, your heart pounding as you recognize the glazed eyes asking and accounting. You will find it on your plate tomorrow. All right, let's travel a little bit metaphorically in time and place to an island off the coast of Sicily. Not the one that was in the headlines many years ago, Stromboli, the volcanic island, but Lipari, an island made of pumice. The poem is called Lipari, Aeolian Islands. The motor revs. The zodiac bounds forward, rubber hot under my thighs. Sun is impartially everywhere, a truncheon on my flaming back, turning the water into broth, azzurro, not blue, opening a window down to volcanic sand that streams away below the zodiac's smack, smack, droning toward moon. We fall backward out of the swaying zodiac into the blood temperature of our oldest selves, thinning through transparent grottos, lava the volcano uttered in shudders when the myths were made. A cauldron of herbs simmers between the broken fingers of the cliffs. A mountain of pumice, pitted and quarried, has gone white blind, staring into the glare. The buildings waver in the heat, centuries of sun recorded in their thick white bones. Built after the myths, try saying that, myths, they have nothing to add. Obedient sheep, one by one, the boats straggle into the harbor. A wind blurs the water opaque, shutting the door into the sea. The bells of Lipari insist, tolling the end of day. The sun flares, a last green flicker. In the midnight piazza by the pier, I hold your hand in my lap. We drink espresso sugared with gossip. A fugue of blurred voices mingles with the ground waves of the tide. Children on the seawall run with practiced ease, ignoring shouts, cautions, threats, balancing in one steady hand their cones of lemon ice, pale as moonlight. Out at sea, small circles of light phosphor the water, drift away, reappear. Fishermen seeking honest fish by lantern light. Several poems in this book are written as homage to friends, whether they live next door or across the country, whether they're alive or dead. We have those special friends. We don't need to see them all the time. There they are for us. This first one is written to a dear friend I rarely see, but who is irreplaceable in my life. Letter to Kathleen. Kathy, my friend, how good to speak to you again. Over the years, I've had some faulty connections. When I dial yesterday, I get busy for the recording. But you, how have you kept that voice? Butter brittle Hennessy, carbon steel vanadium, slicing through our frozen chunk of time. Your voice has always been here with me, buried in warm sand behind my eyes. Kathy, many beg for a message, a whisper, a shadow against the shade. But you do not even need to be listening to be for me. Yet, here you are. How has it been with me? Sometimes I settled, a pioneer broken, whose eyes couldn't make it over the mountains. Sometimes I was parsley on the platter for the ride, a garnish uneaten. Sometimes I was a clear vase filled with flowering light. Sometimes my bones were added to the milk for extra calcium. Kathy, even if you are a wishful figment, you are vine-clad, green and primrose, prima veritas. Your laugh floats, petal by petal, plucked at the expense of thorns. Kathy, even if you are too good to be true, true as lad, a dog, true as milkweed pods, sailing milkweed silk, you are true for me. You are a granary hoarded against lean years. You are a Swiss Army knife, many blades and all keen. You are a stone that knows north. You are holy, I enshrine you. You are a talisman, I won't give you up. The second poem for a friend is about a Minnesota writer, poet and writer, who's no longer on the planet, but who I think about quite often. Are any of you familiar with the work of Bill Holm? Congregation. Okay. Bill is completely alive for me in his work. And so I'm going to read a poem in honor of Bill Holm, but before I do, I'm going to read the end of one of his poems. His poem comes from a book called The Dead Get By With Everything. And that's what his poem is, the last part. Who do the dead think they are, up and dying in the middle of the night, leaving themselves all over my house, all over my books, all over my face? How dare they sit in the front seat of my car, invisible, not wearing their seatbelts, not holding up their end of the conversation? As I drive down the highway, shaking my fist at the air all the way to the office, where they're not in, the dead get by with everything. What a wonderful writer. My poem. You don't get by with being dead, Bill Holm. I believe I saw Bill Holm last night, alive as you and me. Said I, Bill, you're dead and gone. I never died, said he. That's truth, I said. You never died for me. I see you in your Icelandic sweater, red hair and beard gone white, cloth book bag in hand, stocked with your newest pets. You must read this one, you say, thrusting a book at me. Insatiable, unquenchable, your appetite for books, stashed in every room, on nightstands, in cupboards, in back of the commode, so that you and your guests might never be lonely, might never reach out a hand in the night without finding a book to caress. Music was soul food, Bach or a ragtime riff, Scarlatti, Scott Joplin, Schumann, always something new for your fingers, feeling their way into the music, meditating at the keyboard, playing Haydn for the angel of death, who liked it all too well. I open one of your books. You come striding out, your voice with its hint of Icelandic lilt, green Viking eyes, seeking the long view of the world, the prairie view, horizontal grandeur, like that other poet for whom grass is a symbol of everything American worth defending, worth loving. You hectored us, your fellow citizens. Don't be enthralled to things. Care about beauty, damn it. Be less stupid. Your love of coin will stagnate whatever is left of your brain. As ugly Americans, you despised us, but liked almost any one of us over a meal and a glass or two of something worth drinking. Let's have lunch, you'd say. I know just the place. You greeted the cook and the waitress and everyone seated inside as a friend, or soon to be one. In an age that worships money and youth, you said, not so fast, America. Look well at what poverty and age can teach. Hard times are coming again, and you, and you, and you, not one of us will be ready. You ate too much, drank too much, smoked too much. You knew the price, paid it. You left us too soon, Bill. We need your voice, scolding us into better. There's unfinished business for your words, today and tomorrow, as alive in times to come as the day you scrawled them on a yellow legal pad. Sometimes you realize that an event has made a deep impression on you, and you find it resonating over time, and suddenly there it is. This poem is called Heart of Life. When our children were young and we at the heart of life, there was nothing better, nothing more than what we had. One winter night that promised meteors and stars, we woke our children, wrapped them in blankets, carried them outside. Huddled at the picnic table, we craned our necks up, staring up, wrapped up into a show that kept its promise, until our eyes filled with dazzle, until children drooped in our tired arms, our fingers numbed, and common sense drove us inside. Do you remember that night each child, long grown, has asked? We remember. Well, every collection should have, I think, some love poems. So here is one. By the way, yesterday I thought I was losing my voice. As soon as it's here, it's gone. But so what? Is the title. I remember it, bending into the climb, the thrust of heel and calf, the leap of sun on rock. Whatever it was, flashed behind a bush, lizard or snake, thin air singing in our skulls. A hawk hovered below us. In his wake, birds sprawled across the sky. Space spilled at our feet, thin air singing in our skulls. We were there, immediate and true, living in the moment's only moment. I remember it, the room clothed with feathers of light, snow clotting the pane, while in the trees a soft light splayed the spruce into fat white fingers. The snow's thick silence stilled the world's pulse, and I remember the music we made with our bones, rising like cobras from our twining thighs. We were there, bodies immediate and true, living in the moment's only moment. Once I said, I see, I know how it is. I know how to live in this world, but I was wrong. You can only know for then, not for now. We keep it moving, hand and heel and sniffing thigh, body immediate and true, the hawk hanging in the skull's bright air, in the moment's only moment. Well, I want to leave time for questions. I'm going to read, well, let's see, I'm going to read a couple of, 3 poems, I think. One of them takes place from an event that took place on a trip to Japan. We were traveling by plane. Well, there's no other way unless you swim or take a boat, I guess. And I noticed the New York Times book review a few seats ahead of me, and so I very politely asked the person who was sitting there if I could borrow it when he was finished. Well, he looked at me and said, no. Okay, we got to Tokyo and we got into a bus with the people in our group. He and his wife were part of that group. I was uneasy about it. You know, sometimes, well, anyway. One of the places we went was a city called Nikko, a World Heritage Site with Buddhist shrines and Hindu temples, including that one that holds the 3 wise monkeys who see no, hear no, and speak no evil. Well, they sell fortunes, and what I didn't know at the time is that fortunes in Japan are not necessarily good. Well, suddenly this man's wife came running past us saying, "My husband is going to die of a terrible disease. I have to find an antidote." She ran off with the fortune. Well, I saw those monkeys this year, and here's the poem. Nikko, Toshugo Shrine, Omikuji. Beneath the temple roof, the 3 wise monkeys, Mizuru, Kikuzaru, Iwazaru, hear no, see no, speak no evil. This autumn afternoon, perched above the clouds, below the temple roof, as a river of celebrants circles food stalls, streams past souvenir stands, 7 sets of resin monkeys, forests of paper fortunes, tightly furled, awaiting purchase. A woman from our tour cries out as if in pain, pushes others aside to reach us, thrusting curling slips of paper into our puzzled faces. "There must be an antidote," she cries, looking wildly at us. This is my husband's fortune. "You will become incontinent, lose your soul to a demon, your money to a scheming relative." We stare at one another. Nothing in our history of fortunes and cookies compared to anything other than, "You'll have a busy year. A lucky journey awaits you." And this one, she says, "How can this be mine? This is a lie, all wrong. I've always been a good person." "Your lustful eye leads you on a crooked path. Your children will turn away from you and wish you dead." Our guide takes the paper from her trembling fingers, saying, "Don't be alarmed. Omikuji are often wrong. Such fortunes we send away from us." She nods at a pine festooned with twists of paper strung on silver wires, discarded ornaments of ill luck. On a branch, she fastens amongst the others these 2 most recent misfortunes. "Or," she asks, "maybe you prefer that we burn them instead? Once these are gone from you, you are free to choose others." A sudden gust of rain spatters the 3 wise monkeys. Hurtling toward us, the future offers its weather. Okay, 2 more. I feel very confident in the fact that we get born, that we have that experience, that we have this experience of living. It's such a profound gift. And so this poem, Being Born, Yesterday, I watched mayflies above a stream making their kind anew. Last night, under a plankton bloom of stars, I thought about it. My first accomplishment. The entrance exam given without consent. I don't remember twirling in warm dark, fuzzed in fur, greased with vernix, sucking my thumb, not knowing it belonged to me and was a thumb. Or being thrust, shuddering, into a nova of exploding light, pulse after pulse of fiery gas, propelled into each docile cell. I don't remember whether stars danced or rain blurred the windows. I don't remember the hands hefting, swaddling, kind or impersonal. I knew no more than a crocus goblet, thrusting green and sturdy through a March snow, the how of it or the why, the raw insistence on emergence. Scooped from a cauldron of gene soup, I beat the odds, became a universe. Finally, the final poem. When I was growing up, we had a family friend who lived through a time when the Gestapo was after him. He was the lawyer for a famous author who the Nazis wanted, but he escaped. And he was a great family friend. And this is a memory, that which time gives us when we're lucky. Paradise. We were waiting for a train in the echoing underground. I was 13. He was old, a family friend, a refugee from another century. The Gestapo hammered at his front door with the order for his arrest as he walked out the back door with nothing but his passport in his pocket. Just before our train thundered into the station, making it impossible to hear, out of the blue, he said to me, "Memory is a paradise no one can expel you from." This morning, in another century, I woke up, remembered. Thank you.
Experiences that led to the creation of some of the poems, and I wondered if you could also talk a little bit, however you wish, about your relationship with language. Because what I was aware of listening was the word choice, the way you're navigating tone, so many of the things that was happening with the words themselves. So I just wondered if you had some thoughts for us.
As you know very well as a poet and writer, what you're after is the most with the least. You're always looking for, at least in poetry, what can I take away? What can I prune? What word is going to be exactly the right word? And no other. And that's why I think all writers, and certainly all poets, revise. You have a pile of crossed out pages. And I think that's part of the fun and part of the joy. And, there's a phrase that hard writing makes for easy reading. And I think that's probably true. So, yes, that.
You know, you've been both an editor and a writer, and I'm just wondering how that process works for you. Do you have to tell your editors to go out for coffee while you're creating and then invite her back in to do the hard work, the revising?
You know, I think you're absolutely right that you shouldn't be trying to do both. And I think anyone who teaches has the same creative process going on. If you are doing a good job of teaching, that's where your energy is going. And when you're editing, that's where your energy should be going. And so for me, it was very liberating to come back to being a writer. I started as a poet and children's book writer, and I've always, to some extent, done that. And then something came along that took a very large chunk of my life, and everything did go into the editing process. So one of the things that's so nice is that you can go on from one thing into another and come back to something that you originally loved very much. One or two more, if anybody has. Yes.
I just wanted to thank you for the piece about Bill Holm. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, I think this coming week is the anniversary of his death. And in these, what can I say, tumultuous days of the last month, I can only imagine, I would love to imagine what Bill Holm would be saying today. But thank you for that.
Oh, so do I. Yes, you know, there's a presence larger than life, and anyone who knew him or heard him, you know, felt that the way. And you know what was so wonderful was that really you can find him in his books, and he would be very glad about that. He would be very glad to know that his books are around and that you can visit with him that way. We miss him. Yes, Judy.
Does a poem for you start mostly with an image?
You know, I can't hear you.
Does a poem for you, does a poem start mostly with an image or with a concept or with an experience, do you think?
Well, you know, it's different every time. I think very often I'm reacting to something beautiful or not good that I've seen. And I have a feeling a lot of our energy right now are going into things we just as soon not have been flowing into. In other words, things that are disturbing to us, upsetting to us, and draining our energy. So I think that it's important to pull back and try to be, again, you know, it goes with the theme of the book. Try to conserve the energy to be living one's best life. Don't you think? Thank you so much.